The smell hits first thick, acrid, choking a cloud of burning tar that clings to the throat like poison. On a grey morning in March 1789, a crowd gathers at Smithfield Market in London, their faces pale with anticipation and horror. They've come to witness something medieval, something that belongs to darker centuries, yet here it stands. A massive iron cauldron suspended over roaring flames, filled with bubbling black tar that hisses and spits like a living thing. This is justice, they say. This is what happens when you betray the crown's currency. And the man who will die screaming today is John Collins, a counterfeiter who dared to forge the king's coins. Collins stands on the scaffold platform, hands bound behind his back with coarse rope that cuts into his wrists. He's 34 years old, lean and hollow-cheeked, with dark hair matted to his forehead by cold sweat. His shirt is stained and torn, his breeches covered in the filth of Newgate prison where he spent his final weeks. His eyes dart across the crowd, hundreds of faces, some jeering, some silent, some turned away in shame. He can see the cauldron from where he stands, see the black surface rolling and bubbling, throwing off waves of unbearable heat. The executioner, a thick-shouldered man in a leather apron, tends the fire beneath with methodical patience, adding logs, adjusting the flames. Collins tries to swallow, but his mouth is dust. The crime began 2 years earlier in a cramped cellar beneath a chandler's shop in Clerkenwell. Collins had been a silversmith once, skilled with his hands, capable of delicate work that required precision and artistry. But skill doesn't pay debts, and debts in London's underbelly come with consequences sharper than any blade. So he turned his craft toward darker purposes, melting down genuine coins, mixing the silver with base metals, stamping out counterfeits in crude molds he'd carved himself. For months, he flooded the markets with false shillings, enough to buy bread and gin and one more day of survival. He told himself it was victimless, that kings had enough gold already, that the poor needed their deceptions to live. But the crown saw it differently. Counterfeiting wasn't theft, it was treason against the realm itself. They caught him on a December night when an informant led the constables to his door. The evidence was undeniable. Molds, crucibles, hundreds of unfinished coins stacked in wooden boxes. Collins didn't run. He stood there in the cold cellar, surrounded by the instruments of his crime, and felt the weight of inevitability settle on his shoulders like chains. The trial was swift, almost perfunctory. The judge, bewigged and stern, pronounced the sentence in a voice devoid of mercy. "You shall be taken to Smithfield, and there boiled alive in tar until you are dead, as prescribed by law for the crime of high treason through counterfeiting." The courtroom fell silent. Even in an age familiar with public execution, this punishment stood apart, archaic, brutal, designed not just to kill but to terrorize. Now that moment has arrived. The executioner approaches Collins with heavy steps, his face impassive behind a cloth mask. Two assistants grip Collins by the arms, and he feels his legs weaken, feels the animal terror rising in his chest like floodwater. "Please," he whispers, but the word dissolves into the noise of the crowd. They drag him toward the scaffold's edge, where a wooden frame waits a cruel contraption designed to lower a man into the cauldron slowly, to maximize suffering, to turn death into spectacle. His wrists are tied to the frame's crossbeam, his ankles secured with iron shackles. The heat from the cauldron washes over him in suffocating waves, and he can smell his own fear mingling with the tar's chemical stench. The mechanism creaks as they begin to lower him. Collins screams a raw, primal sound that cuts through the morning air and silences the jeering crowd. His feet touch the surface first, and for one merciful instant there's only heat, only the sensation of something wrong. Then the tar accepts him, and the pain becomes everything. It's not like fire, not like any burn he could have imagined. The tar clings and penetrates, seeps through cloth and skin, reaches bone with hungry fingers. His screams become wordless, animal, a sound that humans shouldn't make. The crowd watches, some turning away, some frozen in horror, some nodding grimly as if witnessing divine justice made manifest. They lower him inch by inch, ankles, calves, knees, each descent measured and deliberate. Collins thrashes against his bonds, but the ropes hold firm, the frame unyielding. His breeches disintegrate, his skin blisters and blackens, and still he's conscious, still trapped in his body as it's destroyed piece by piece. The executioner pauses when the tar reaches Collins's waist, giving the crowd time to witness. giving Collins time to understand fully what's being done to him. His screams have become hoarse gasps now, his throat scorched from inhaling the toxic fumes. His dark hair is plastered to his skull, his face contorted into something barely recognizable as human all agony, all desperate animal need for it to end. The final descent takes less than a minute but feels eternal. When the tar reaches his chest, Collins's breathing becomes labored, each breath a battle against the crushing heat and poison. His eyes roll back, whites showing, and for a moment mercy seems close, but the body fights on, refusing to surrender even when the mind has shattered. The tar creeps up his neck, over his chin, and then finally, mercifully covers his face. The screaming stops, the thrashing stills. The crowd exhales collectively, a sound like wind through dead trees. The executioner lets the frame rest, leaving Collins's body submerged in the black, bubbling mass that will be both his grave and his monument. They leave the cauldron burning for another hour, ensuring the sentence is fully executed, ensuring no possibility of survival. The crowd begins to disperse, some shaken, some satisfied, all carrying the image of what they've witnessed back into London's tangled streets. Mothers pull children away with warnings about honesty and obedience. Merchants touch their legitimate coins with newfound reverence. And somewhere in the city, another desperate man in another dark cellar contemplates his own crude molds and wonders if it's worth the risk. The law has spoken in tar and fire, and its message couldn't be clearer. Some crimes deserve not just death, but obliteration. As evening falls, they finally lift what remains from the cauldron barely recognizable as human, a blackened mass that will be displayed on a spike as warning to others. John Collins came to Smithfield as a man with a name, a history, a life of choices both good and terrible. He leaves as a cautionary tale, a story mothers will tell in whispers, a reminder that justice in 1789 knows nothing of mercy. The tar has cooled now, hardened around the scaffold, a dark stain on the cobblestones that will take weeks to fade. But the memory won't fade. It will linger in nightmares and folklore, passed down through generations as proof of what happens when ordinary men make extraordinary mistakes. In the end, Collins's crime was simple. He made fake coins to survive in a world designed to crush the poor. His punishment was anything but simple. It was theater and terror, law and cruelty, wrapped together in bubbling tar beneath a gray London sky. History rarely judges these moments fairly. It remembers the spectacle but forgets the desperation, remembers the screams but forgets the hunger that drove him to that cellar in Clerkenwell. Perhaps that's the real horror, not the execution itself, but how easily we transform human suffering into entertainment, how quickly we forget that the man in the tar was once a skilled silversmith who laughed and loved and feared death just like any of us. If this story made you think, don't look away. Like, share, and subscribe for more dark truths buried beneath history's blood-stained pages, because the past isn't dead, it's still warning us. The stain at Smithfield has faded, but the lesson remains. Mercy is a luxury, the powerful reserve for themselves, and justice, when wielded without compassion, becomes indistinguishable from murder.